How's everyone doing today? I'm here for my very first Pokemon Black and White 2 Wi-Fi battle video. I've done a few in Black and White 1, and I know that Black and White 2 has been out for a few weeks in Japan by now, but I was kind of waiting for a decent English patch to come out because I didn't see much of a point in playing the sequel if it was going to be completely in Japanese and I wouldn't know what the hell was going on. I found a pretty decent English patch from Project Pokemon. They have one that's pretty well patched, especially for the online battling. I think that was the main demographic that they were targeting with their patch and all that stuff, because a lot of the storyline is still completely in Japanese, and I have no idea where the hell I'm going when I'm trying to play the single player in this game. But don't ask me for ROMs and all that shit, because I'm not supposed to link blah blah blah. Google is your friend. I had to find it. In fact, I spent a long time, Googling for all the shit that I needed, and then furthering on to resalve all of my teams, like all of my Pokemon and everything, into Black and White 2, because I tried to make exact replicas pretty much from my Black and White ones, except you will notice a few different changes to my team from my typical OU team that I use most of the time. I got rid of my Gengar and swapped him out for a Jellicent, because I kind of thought that Gengar was kind of useless when I had the Thundurus T, which, by the way, I'm predicting Thundurus T to go Uber the next time that Smogon decides to change their tiers. They actually started it out when they did their your typical tier changes and all that shit this June. They actually said that all three of the new Therian forms will be OU for a little while. They're going to see how they go. But considering that normal Thundurus is Uber, I'm going to predict he will be Uber next time they change shit around. But honestly, I've been talking about that stuff for a little bit too long. Looking at the team preview, I was predicting that he would go for his T-Tar to get the sand up at first, but then I started to think, okay, Blissey is my most obvious lead right here, so he's probably going to go for Conkeldurr to counter that. So, to not completely over-predict, I decided to lead with my Terrakion, as you're about to see, so let's go ahead and jump right into this. So he actually will end up leading off with his Conkeldurr, and I will end up leading off with my Terrakion to kind of go for a neutral thing. I figured if he does go for Terrakion, then I'm not, royally fucked or anything. In fact, I would have the upper hand, and I sort of figured that he would probably go straight for a Mach Punch or maybe a Drain Punch, so I switched out into Jellicent, but he actually goes for the Bulk Up, and then I'm like, okay, he's going to go for Payback. I know that because he could probably knock out my Jellicent in one Payback after that Bulk Up. So I switched into Terrakion, which in practice I thought, yes, I'm starting out the game perfect, because I'm going to get that Justified boost, and nothing on his team wants to take a good hit from a Choice Banded, Justified Terrakion. But he actually goes for the Mach Punch, and I'm like, oh my god. I was so pissed off right here because I didn't think to go for Quick Attack because I guess I was more so predicting a Drain Punch that I could probably take one of, maybe, I don't know. But I was predicting that I would go first because, of course, how I would outspeed him and everything. But I actually go for a Thunderbolt on my Thundurus T, and it almost knocks him out, leaves him with just that sliver of health. He goes for another Bulk Up, and then I'm like, oh shit, this is just going to be bad right here. I knew that he would go for a Mach Punch, which I was pretty sure that I could take at least a little better than my Terrakion did, considering that I resisted, and I actually take it pretty well, considering that Thundurus isn't exactly the most bulky guy in the world, and I just go for another Thunderbolt, and of course I get a crit the second time when it does like 12 damage anyway, but whatever. I guess this way I don't have to argue about whether or not the crit mattered, but I was Choice Spec, so I, of course, couldn't do anything to that Gliscor, so I change out into my Latios. I'm not sure if he predicted that or if he was just playing it safe, but he went for an Ice Fang. Regardless, it did pretty well for him, and, I really realized at this point that this team that I've been working on, it was a pretty new team. It has a little bit of a weakness. I don't have any Ice moves, I don't think. I really do not think so, and I know a lot of people will recommend that you put HP Ice on the Thundurus T, but I didn't. I think I have HP Fire because I thought that it would work better on my team, but actually my Expert Belt Latios was able to get rid of both his Gliscor and his Landorus T with Surfs, which was pretty surprising, really. I mean, I know that my Latios is kind of a good damage dealer. He's one of my harder hitters, but I was still legitimately surprised. So he sends out his shit, T-Tar. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. But the guy had told me that his switch into Landorus was actually a misclick, so you can take that information however you want to. He finishes me off with a Crunch, and I was really hoping that my Surf would do a little bit more damage. But then my Latios' Reign of Terror, albeit very short and not that exciting, was over. And so I switched into my Metagross, and I started to think that he would change out to avoid a Brick Break or something like that. But he actually stayed in, which was a good move on his part. And he just goes, what the fuck, boom, fire Fire Blast, and I was really kind of expecting more of an Earthquake. I was actually more worried about that. Fire Blast didn't cross my mind until right after I did Pursuit, and I was like, wait a minute, why didn't I think of this? But luckily, I tanked it enough to where I was able to Hammer Arm him the very next turn and knocked him out, which I really wish I did that the first turn, instead of trying to over-predict and go for Pursuit, which was a dumb move, since Pursuit wouldn't have done that much damage anyway, even if he did change out, so, you know, I should have just gone for the Hammer Arm or the Brick or whatever to be safe. And he goes for a Volt Switch, which finishes me off. And the cool thing about being finished off by a Volt Switch or a U-turn or something like that is that you know what you get to see what they change out into before you choose. So that was cool. I see that he switches out into his Tornadus T, and I switch out into my Thunderous T. And this is kind of the whole, you know, this is an epic kind of pair up right here. He just goes for a Heat Wave, which actually does a good bit of damage, knocks out my Thunderous, because that thing is not bulky at all. You know, these are hard hitters. Like my Terrakion and my Thunderous are probably my hardest hitters. They're both choice spect slash banded respectively. And I changed out into my Blissey because I realized for the end of this match I'm gonna want to get rocks up, so I get them up about a little bit more than halfway into the game. You know, when I should have got them up earlier, I should have realized that they would really help against his Thunderous and his Tornadus, but I actually only got them up at this point because I really didn't want to have my Blissey out while he had his Conkeldurr up earlier, so that's why I didn't lead with my Blissey. And right here at this point, he just kind of goes for the Nasty Plot, and I'm thinking, alright, he's in to stay, which kind of sucks because I really wanted to get some Stealth Rock damage on his Thunderous, you know, because that would be even more useful than on the Tornadus, but I just go for the Toxic because I figure if I can kind of stall him out just a little bit, you know, because I don't think I can stall this thing out forever. It's just that he's a special attacker, so if anyone on my team can tank this guy, it's going to be my Blissey, obviously. So I just kind of Toxic'd him, and I was kind of waiting around to see exactly what he would do because I knew none of his moves would be incredibly hard hitting on me. I'm not sure if Thunderous T can learn Focus Blast. I do not think he can, but he may be able to. He may be able to, because I think mine knows it. If he does, I don't even know. I need to study these movesets a little bit more, but that would be the only thing that I would be even worried about, or maybe even an HP fighting, but that would be even more unlikely, I guess. But I really wasn't too afraid of what this thing could do, you know, so I was just kind of waiting around, like I said, stalling it out, and I was doing some occasional flamethrower damage on him just to kind of add to it a little bit to speed up this process. And I really wasn't too worried about getting paralyzed because, of course, you know, I'll just be able to get the natural cure. And luckily, I don't think he does paralyze me at all. I don't think. Maybe I do later on, but anyway, this is just kind of some straightforward stalling, going back and forth, dealing damage to each other, and I knew that I wasn't going to be around for too much longer. I couldn't stall this guy out very well after a few nasty plots that he had done. You know, I knew that I couldn't really take this for too much longer, and I was really hoping that the numbers would add up perfectly sometime, and I went ahead and went for the soft boiled on this turn because I live it with 9 HP, which is awesome, and I had enough to, of course, soft boiled up, and that takes another turn of poison damage to him, and sandstorm damage, by the way, which is pretty minuscule, but you know, it still did kind of affect this a little bit, I think. But yeah, we both have lefties, which is kind of a weird thing because a lot of the Thunderous Ts and really all of the Therians that I've been seeing, most of them carry Life Orb or some kind of choice, you know, but he was carrying lefties, which is a good idea because the Thunderous especially is not very bulky, so, you know, it's a good idea. I thought about it, but I really figured that I should take advantage of its awesome special attack on mine, you know, so that's kind of what I'm doing with my Terrakion as well. He's not that bulky, but, you know, I gotta take advantage of that awesome attack power. But anyway, so I go ahead and get a Toxic up on his Tornadus a little fast because I figured that as soon as a Hurricane hit me, you know, I'd probably take a good chunk of damage from it, so I wanted to get that up early since I really wasn't too sure of how long my Blissey's life expectancy would be at this point. But he misses his first Hurricane and gets his second one up on me, which, like I was thinking, did a decent little chunk. And it almost killed me, but I was still able to do some flamethrower damage, which still did pretty well. You know, it really added on to the sandstorm and the toxic damage over time, to where he was actually going down pretty quickly right there. And the toxic really wasn't multiplying quite as quickly as I was hoping. Like when he started taking some toxic damage that last turn, I was like, really, that's all it's doing? And he actually knocks me out with a second Hurricane. I mean, with his third Hurricane, the second one to actually hit. And then the sandstorm and the toxic damage finished him off. And since I have my Jellicent left, I won the match. And that is it. I would like to thank you all for watching. Hope you have a nice day, and goodbye.